This afternoon, I have Tim Morris with me, and Mr. Morris is a middle school social studies teacher, and he's agreed to share a little bit about his quarantine experience in our Steamer2Steamer series. So appreciate you doing this, Mr. Morris.
Yeah.
I'll jump into the questions right away. So what have you learned, or what have you learned about yourself or school as you've sort of managed this quarantine?
Some of the things I thought about, I had the questions ahead of time, so I made a couple of notes. Talking to my sister-in-law, and they live in an area around the Chicago area. I feel like our district, for being small, was well prepared for the distance learning. Surprisingly, people might think of a small community like ours, and we would be behind tech-wise. And I was telling my sister-in-law, I actually think our district goes above and beyond with technology in relation to the monies that we have.
Yeah.
So I felt like we as a district, because we had done the e-learning beforehand, we weren't caught with our pants down, so to speak. I feel like a majority of us felt, now this wasn't an ideal situation, but it wasn't like the stress on top of trying to learn something new. And while early on trying to decide between whether it was Google Hangouts or Zoom, but once we got an established routine going, I feel like my stress level was much lower because we had prepared in ways for this sort of thing. So I felt good that I was in a district where our school board had embraced your concept of going with the e-learning to start with. And so I hope now they see the wisdom in your planning for that. And just working with my colleagues, I feel like more of us were ready for this than others. And for myself, because I do a flipped classroom, I felt even more prepared than some. I didn't do that for that reason, but having my students watch the videos for homework, I have felt like it's been more seamless for me than for others.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Good point. Yes. And sometimes you just get lucky with those things too. And, but again, the cold weather, if you remember that cold weather snap, I just felt like, man, there's more we could be doing during this time away, and others are doing it. So why can't we? That's really, really where it started. Try not to lose.
I was surprised by how actually, I don't want to say advanced, but how prepared we were for it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. So what have you learned from others about the quarantine?
I have learned, as I was talking a little bit earlier off camera, how interconnected we are as a society, both socially, and more importantly right now, obviously, the economics of it all. That if one industry shuts down, it affects everybody. And I think students and parents have also maybe had a slightly greater appreciation for education, as some of them are having added this to their plate. I've talked to a couple of buddies of mine. They're like, wow, I respect more of what teachers do now than ever. So that's been nice. And I'm sure, as with anything, you don't appreciate things until it's gone. I think there was a greater appreciation for firefighters and police officers after 9/11. And I think after this, and overall, I think there's greater appreciation for educators. I do think as anything, there's a couple of, you're giving them too much. And I've seen some posts where people are harsh with the teachers, but overall, it's been neat to see people's post of, I appreciate now what educators do. How do you do this with 30 kids all day? I heard that too. So that's been nice, but definitely the interconnectivity of our economy and our society. We have technology, but face-to-face is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was talking to another history teacher today at the high school, Mr. Ankrum, and he said, I hope the lessons we learn are not too quickly forgotten. How interconnected we are. You mentioned that, and I completely agree. You also mentioned, the different groups that have kind of stepped up and become more critical to us as we do day to day. The medical folks, obviously doctors have always been, sort of someone people look up to, but the nurses, the CNAs, the LPNs, the entire medical crew are another group that I think, have just really come to the forefront. And I hope we keep them on the forefront as well, because they're lifesavers and service providers, kind of like, they provide a medical service. We provide an educational service. I see us both being so important, and yeah, they do a great job. So is there anything you miss about staying at home and being, sort of a little more, less being able to move out and about a little less?
Yeah, the traveling. I have friends that live in different parts of Illinois, and so missing that. I missed my nephew's birthday party. That bothered me. Missing, like I said, visiting my family in Springfield, worrying about my grandma. My parents have moved her into their home, and she's over 90 years old, and so just worrying about that. But the traveling, I think, the going to school and seeing people face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, that do you feel like you've gained some things at all that you didn't have in the past, or you do differently now?
I did talk about, I have used this time to catch up with a buddy and I that I had not talked to a lot lately. I've reconnected with him more. We're using online gaming as a way to connect, so to speak. Yeah. And so we get on a headset and we talk as we're playing the game. And so connecting with that's so the silver lining, reconnecting with him has been good. And I feel like my classes that have the flipped classroom, it was easier for them to adjust to it, at least for me.
Yeah.
And so that's been good. But yeah, so I think the pressure, the stress has been a little bit reduced, that I already had a plan in place for at least how my classroom goes. Yeah. So having to make adjustments to certain things, but overall, feel good about that.
And is there anything in particular that you do to take care of yourself socially, emotionally, physically?
I jotted down emotionally, keeping in touch with my brother online, also doing some gaming, and my mom and I have been talking on the phone, and then Dad's even gotten on. So connecting with them through phones, and I haven't done as much exercising as I should. When I say exercising, like very little. So, but I think mentally, just I live by myself, so keeping in touch with people through my computer or through the phones has been, I think, key to keeping me upbeat and optimistic.
Yeah. So many people who do live with people or have families, sort of take for granted that they have their social network sort of locked in place with them. Our family went from 3 people to 6 people, well, 5 people. The 6 comes and goes on the weekends. I have said this a few times. Those that do live alone, that's sort of a whole different dynamic for them too. So I'm glad to hear it's going okay for you, because that's not easy.
It makes you appreciate your family and friends, because that they have been a good support for me. Keep me upbeat.
Yeah. So any favorite social media posts that you've sort of picked up or started following, or I would say a new activity or a new movie or something in that realm that you've started since the quarantine started for us?
I've definitely watched more Netflix as far as that goes. Spending more time gaming with my brother and my friend has helped. As far as I don't do a lot of online the social networking with Facebook and things like that. I have an account, but I generally don't get on. Early on, there was a lot of negativity that kind of turned me off to it, and I know there's a lot of places you can go for the positivity, but I have found I just spend my time in other ways.
I picked up a couple new podcasts that I like. You ever heard of you listen to The Score out of Chicago sports?
No,
WSCR AM 670. It's AM 670. But they have one of their broadcasters, Lawrence Holmes. He does the 12 to 2 show. Haven't really listened to that much, but he has a podcast called House of L, and he interviews people who are just movers and shakers. Sometimes they're sports figures. A lot of times they are media people. So I've loved to hear how hard these folks work and grind in their business. It usually starts off as very low pay. You have a couple jobs you have to do. These young people have earned college degrees in journalism. they go into what they think is a glamorous lifestyle, and it's not. You have to work hard for a long time to get anywhere in, media publication, whether it's newspaper, radio, TV. And I've just enjoyed their stories. I like the human element of it. They share their stories. Have you done any of the Michael Jordan story? What's The Last Dance?
The Last Dance? I have not yet. No,
I haven't either. Yeah.
I've watched people talk about it.
Yeah.
Like ESPN. Talk about it. I would mention Michael Matera is one person. He's a teacher that got me into the gamification.
Yeah.
I listen to his YouTube. I guess you could call it podcast, I guess. But
yeah.
On YouTube. He has a podcast, but then the video that he does on YouTube, and he's always great. Michael Matera. He's always upbeat, positive. And while many of his things are on gamification, he also has things on just staying positive in the classroom, different ideas.
Nice.
And he also has done game like we've done with our district with the gaming.
Yeah.
As sessions he'll have people come on and play different games.
Yeah.
So Michael Matera, he's phenomenal. He's a great speaker.
Huh. Interesting. Tim, before the COVID virus hit, had you ever been to the Quad Cities? There's a gaming location down there. We went over Christmas break, and they have a variety of stations set up. I can't think of the name of it now. St. Ambrose uses it as their location when they host games, but it's downtown the Quad Cities, downtown Davenport. It's kind of a neat little business. I don't know what it's going to do. Obviously, they've not been able to bring people in and all that, so hopefully it'll survive. But it was neat. It was fun to go down there and spend a day. Different cost points to do different activities. They had a lot of really neat virtual reality stuff too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that was hard. I actually got nauseous sort of running and climbing and doing some things. I was like, wow, this is a little too real.
Yeah. We've had that with their kids at school too, where they get the headaches because it's neat, but it can cause that.
Well, so my final question is, any advice for your fellow steamers out there as we wrap this up?
I looked at a quote online. I like this. The Disraeli guy said, "There is no education like adversity." And I thought that was a neat quote.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know what we are able to do until we are pushed, until we find conflict, and we find the strength in how we overcome that. And I think our district has done a great job of doing that, led by, of course, your leadership at the school board. Mrs. Skipper has done just an outstanding job of keeping us. The communication has been outstanding.
Yeah.
Like I've never once felt I didn't know what was going on. I mean, in fact, I'm sure she's worked more hours now than she ever did before, because just the amount of things that she's having to keep on top of it makes me appreciate her even more so than ever before. And so I give you credit, I give the school board credit, I give Mrs. Skipper credit, and all of our teachers at middle school at, keeping these, this is tough for them. And so I think if we can make it a little bit easier for them, that's a good thing. And I'm proud. I'm glad I work in this district.
Yeah.
I think that also made me feel very appreciative to work in the district I work in.
I would echo those. Yeah, I am grateful for the teachers. I mean, the things I've heard about and learned. One of the things I miss the most is, I'm not a sitter. I like to be out and moving around. So I really miss visiting the schools and the classes and seeing the kids. So I've had to do that differently now. I mean, I keep up with what's going on through the principals, and some of these things too help out, but so I don't feel nearly as close to as much that's going on, and I miss that. I told Virginia I've never been in my office so much since I've been hired here.
Very true.
This has been a way different experience, but and like you, I love what the teachers have been doing, and for both the families and the students, and it's pretty neat. Stacy Kalacha told me, we had about close to 1,800 meals that we distribute a week. I mean, that's a lot of food. That's pretty powerful what they're doing for the community.
That is.
those 4 people that are, helping food service get out anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
it's good to say that too, because you listen to the news and it's not always positive. Some of that there's negativity, but through that negativity, as my comment said, you also see the people stepping up and really helping their community. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know you got a class to get off to soon, so thank you so much for spending a few moments in the Steamer to Steamer podcast, I guess I'll call it.
You bet. Thank you, Dr. Hogue.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.